Hello, welcome back. I'm Miniature Mike. Today we're going to keep doing our character review and comparison series, and we're going to look at Chewbacca this time. So, really like Chewbacca a lot. Chewbacca Rebel Hero was the first mini I ever pulled, along with the X-1 Viper Droid, back with the Universe sets. Lots of fun, and there's a lot of interesting Chewbaccas. They kind of fall under really like three categories. So, we'll jump in and see what Chewbacca can do. So taking a look at the original from Rebel Storm, I actually don't think he's that bad at all. So he's got 100 hit points, 17, 8, and 20 for the stats. Cleave and Momentum, which go together really well. Like those are nice pairings. And you get all that for 24. So really, I don't think it's that bad. It's just because Rebel Storm characters typically don't have a lot of other things going for them. They get left behind and they're not really rated very well. However, I think he's awesome. I'm not awesome, but I think he's a little underrated, I should say. So his hit points being 100, that's really good for a 24. His defense really solid. His range survivability, not as awesome, but since he has so many hit points, I think that kind of helps a little bit. His melee survivability, I think, is decent with the hit points and being able to kind of hit and run a little bit. Although, I don't know, maybe that's a little bit too high. His attack is pretty solid. Damage, special abilities. The reason his special ability is just a 2 is because a lot of characters at his level have a lot of special abilities. However, he kind of doesn't. It's just 2 of them, which is they're good, but that's kind of how it is. But they go together really well, so I'm giving him a 4 for his special abilities harmonizing well that he does have. He's decently versatile. As a Chewbacca, I think he's just a solid 3, kind of average. And then Blue Milk gives him a 6.59, which is average for Blue Milk. And then he's just a rusher and $10. So I think he's kind of surprisingly all right for an old character. However, you can make him better with other commander effects for sure. And there's other Chewbaccas that we'll get to that are maybe better in different ways. But I think he's an interesting piece. He's kind of okay. So yeah. Chewbacca of Kashyyyk. So I don't think this guy is very okay. So he's got worse hit point, worse stats all around, but costs more. Worse stats all around. Instead of cleave, he has double attack. But I don't know if I really want double attack because he can't hit anything anyway. So I'm not a fan of this Chewbacca of Kashyyyk. Like I mentioned, he costs 1 more than the last one, but then he takes a lot of stat decreases all across the board, and I don't think double attack is enough to kind of make up for it. I'm not surprised he comes through Revenge of the Sith, which has a lot of underpowered characters. So his hit points, though, are still decent. His defense, being a 16 for a 25, is not awesome, but it's okay. Usually it's more like 17 at that level. His melee survivability and range survivability is not that great. His attack is bad. 6 attack is bad on a shooter at that level. It just is. You're looking more like 8 or 9 if you want that. His max damage isn't really that great. It's kind of fine. His special abilities, I don't like it. So yeah, for 25, I shouldn't say they're bad because momentum is fine when you can use it. And double attack is okay, but his double attack's not going to do very well with low attack, and his momentum is not as awesome as it is before. Whereas before there was better attack and there's cleave, so now it's just kind of like I just kind of don't know. His special abilities, they don't harmonize well, but I guess his versatility is average, being able to do a couple different things. And unsurprisingly, his Blue Milk score is a 5, basically 5.09, which is kind of mediocre. And then his special abilities, I guess he's supposed to be a rusher that also shoots. I don't know. So in general, I give him a 1.9. I think he's a very poor character. I'm not a fan of this Chewbacca. I would never use him. But if you got uses for him, let me know. Let's take a look now at my favorite Chewbacca. And I think my rating for him is a little... I think I overrated him. I'll be honest about that. But I really, really like this guy. So he costs 30. So one of the more expensive Chewbaccas, but he has 120 hit points, 17, 9, and 20, so great stats. And then he just has a whole swath of interesting special abilities. He's very versatile, so he's got Bodyguard, he's got Cleave, he's got Demolish, he also has Momentum like the other one, Gunner, Industrial Repair, and Regular Repair. So while you could say, I get the argument that maybe he doesn't need all this stuff, or it's a little bit too well-rounded, I think just kind of in general, I really like having all these options available. I like that he has the Momentum, Cleave, and Demolish stuff. I like that he has that Bodyguard stuff too with all those hit points. That can be cool. And then if you want to pair him with something, he can be useful if you pair him with a mounted weapon character, but there's better ones for that. So I think his hit points is really, really, really good. Defense is fine. The survivability stuff's pretty average. His attack is kind of a little above average slightly, but pretty average. His max damage is pretty meh. It's I think actually going back and ranking, I'd knock this down a little bit. His special abilities I think is awesome. I think he has so many options. That's why I gave him a 5 for versatility. I think for special ability harmony, now that I take a look at this, I'd probably give it more like a 3 because he does have a lot of different things that sort of harmonize together. And so overall, I think I give him for Chewbacca. As he would go, I give him a 4.5. I think he's the best Chewbacca. I know there's other ones that specialize at certain of these things better. So he's a rusher, a gunner, and a bodyguard. There's better rushers. There is a better gunner, and then there's also better. Well, maybe not necessarily a better bodyguard. So I think he's super well rounded. Does a lot of things pretty good. But overall, yeah, best stats, and he's my favorite recommendation. I've had a lot of fun with this guy over the years. He's cool, but my giving him a 4.0 is saying great. I think that's a little bit too high. I think if I redid the math on this, I'd probably bump down the special ability harmony a little bit. Because obviously the Blue Milk score is saying he's like above average. He's kind of like in that middle ground, like so that kind of tracks. But at the same time, I don't know. I think he's really good. I like him. Next one is Chewbacca Fearless Scout. I've always thought this one was so like bizarre in some ways because his powers are just so strange. Like clearly it's based off of when he's getting the Minox off the Millennium Falcon. But if you take a look at his stats, they're really good stats. 110, 17, 9, and 20. Okay, the 17-9 is very common for Chewbacca's. So he has Artillerist, which is he the only guy in the game with this? I don't know. There's probably someone else in one of the later sets that has it. So he's better against flight characters. I think Breath Mask is almost useless. Like, really, when are you going to actually use that? Maybe occasionally. Stable Footing, great. Throw it in there. And then there's having stealth is awesome. Won't complain about having that. So it's very interesting combinations. The thing that I like about him though is like he does have stealth with crazy stats and he's pretty cheap. So I think that's actually pretty solid. So overall, like his hit point's awesome. His defense and survivability, special range is great. Having stealth, his melee is really good. It's not as good obviously, but it is nice that he has the hit points. Solid attack. His max damage is very average. I think 3 is too high. Characters this level, they tend to have double attack and 20 damage, so I think I should actually bump that down in the future. Special abilities are solid. The reason I'm giving him a 3 is just because I feel like these 2 abilities are very niche. Like, very niche. You may not use them at all. That could totally happen. And then Stable Footing is one where it's nice, but like it just applies to difficult terrain, so you're not going to use it all the time either. But stealth is nice. So the kind of way I look at it, I kind of see is in reality, he really just has stealth, and that's pretty much it for all intents and purposes. So that's why I'm giving him a 3. His abilities, I gave him a 2. There are just kind of a lot of random things like, he's good against poison people. He's can take down flight people, I guess. As a result, he has stealth. As a result, I think he's more of a versatile figure rather than his powers kind of harmonizing well. And I think he's a solid one, so I gave him above average. He's a good character, and also that's kind of reflected in Blue Milk as well. Got a 7.87, which I believe is just a hair below the other Chewbacca. So I think 3.6 is appropriate. He's actually pretty good. Having stealth helps him a lot, and he can kind of have that like anti-flight role. So yeah, great stats for cost. The next Chewbacca is Chewbacca of Hoth. So this is an interesting one. He's one of the cheapest. I think he's the cheapest Chewbacca you can get. He's got 100, again, 17 and 8, 20 damage. This guy's got Deadeye. So, if he doesn't move, I guess he can make a better shot. That's great. But this guy's all about the amount of weapons. So he's got Gunner 10 and Industrial Repair 20, which is really, really good combinations if you want to mix this guy with something big. So that's kind of a whole point of him, his whole purpose. So he got, good hit points. His defense is solid. His survivability is not really that great. He doesn't really have much to offer in terms of like defense and attacking and counterattacking. Like he has Deadeye, but it's just kind of tacked on in my opinion. Attack solid, damage. I mean, for a 22, having 8 attacks pretty solid. Max damage is okay with having Deadeye. Special abilities, I think, are fine. His special abilities, they do harmonize well for having, Gunner and Industrial Repair. That makes him really good at that role. 20 versatility. He's just kind of a solid 3 Chewbacca score. And that is reflective, the Blue Milk score being 6.4, which is kind of right in the middle. And yeah, he's just a gunner. I think he's excellent if you pair him with a mounted weapon character, and that's it. I wouldn't use him for any other situation, but mounted weapon characters don't necessarily come up a lot either. But I think he's good at that pairing, so I would use him in that situation. So, let's see, Chewbacca with C-3PO. He's a little kind of has a lot of random things here. So he's actually one of the more pricey ones at 31. He's got the same stats as before, we saw with the 110, 17, 8, and not 20. Very common. But this guy, he's got a couple things. He's kind of like a bodyguard rusher hybrid. He's got the double attack like Kashyyyk. He's got the cleave and the momentum like the rusher ones do. And then he also has draw fire, which is like, a version of bodyguard, I guess, like Rebel Hero has. So he does have a few things that are interesting going for him, but I think he's a little kind of convoluted, has a lot, maybe almost too much going on. So, but his hit points are good. His defense is solid. His survivability is not wonderful. I think his melee survivability is not too bad because he has momentum, cleave, double. Like he can take care of business a little bit better against those close people. I think his special abilities are pretty good. Like double attack is usually a good thing to have. At least he has 8 attack. Momentum and cleave is a nice thing to have together. And being able to use draw fire, is nice for certain circumstances for sure. His special abilities, they're just kind of, I wouldn't say they necessarily harmonize well together, but they're solid. It makes him a versatile character, and I think he's just kind of like a good, maybe slightly above average Chewbacca score. I think the thing that holds him back a little bit for me is being a 31. That's kind of expensive. So I'd say, yeah, he's a rusher, bodyguard. That's a shame I did not put his price down here, so he doesn't cost too much. You have to take a look at that, but that kind of winds up being a 3.2. Like he's good, not great, but he's fine. Not great, but not horrible. Just kind of right in the middle. He's probably the Chewbacca I wouldn't use. I would probably I would use the least. I like how the other Chewbaccas are either more versatile, well-rounded, or they are more what's the word for it? They are really good at one thing. I don't think he's quite there yet, so as a result, he's fine. Chewbacca Enraged Wookiees. This is the kind of the prime rusher. He's got 160, 13, 10, and 30. Savage, so it's interesting. He's got Savage, Charging Assault, and Demolish. So the interesting thing with him, it's tricky. So he doesn't benefit from commander effects because of Savage, which can be rough if you wanted to make him even better. So you'll have to maybe do some little above and beyond, maybe if you want him to benefit from commander effects. But in general, what you're looking at is a guy who has Savage, but he can also shoot with good attack and good damage, so that's nice. He is the most expensive Chewbacca at 34. But his defense is so bad that like if other team has people that can do a lot of damage, have solid attack, they'll take him apart. I've seen him be taken apart kind of quick before, but he definitely is a cool weapon. So great hit points, terrible defense. Survivabilities are not great. I mean, it's just that 160 is the only thing kind of saving him at this point. His attack is solid. I think 10 attack is great. Really great. Max damage is decent with the Charging Assault. You could get 40. Special abilities are all right. Special abilities, they do harmonize well. Like if you're going to have Savage, at least have Demolish and especially a Charging Assault plus 10. Like that stuff makes Savage maybe hurt a little bit less. And his special abilities, they do harmonize well. He's versatile. I think he's a decent versatility because Savage can kind of mess that up, but because he can shoot, I think it helps a lot. So that is good. And for Chewbacca score, I gave him a 4. I know that is maybe too high for sure, but like if you put him with the right Chewbacca, like the right like Wookiee squads, and kind of find ways to get around to Savage, he could be kind of fun, kind of scary too. But all in all, he's a 6.7 on Blue Milk, which is that average ranking, and I understand why. So, but yeah, take advantage of those hit points, take advantage of those really nice attack and damage, and Charging Assault and stuff, and he could be pretty sweet. So, yeah, cool character. Let's move on to the last one. That was the last Chewbacca. So when you take a look at all these Chewbaccas all around, you can see that they're kind of just sit around the 3s. You have, in my opinion, Kashyyyk is bad. I think Rebel Hero is really good. I'm a big fan of Rebel Hero. But in general, Chewbacca's they do usually have great hit points. The defense is fine. The range survivability is usually just kind of eh. The melee survivability is pretty average too. Attack usually around average, maybe slightly above average, depends on which one you use. Max damage. So Chewbacca's, some of them sometimes they have double attack, but they don't really have a lot of extra added on. So you're not going to be getting that. Special abilities, pretty kind of hit or miss. Especially some of them harmonize better. So that's the thing about Chewbacca's is you have this Chewbacca who is he's a solid rusher, and then you have Chewbacca Kashyyyk who's kind of a rusher, but not really. He's not very good. I like Chewbacca Rebel Hero being a really solid, versatile option of all of those. You got the anti-flight Chewbacca, and he's pretty good in his own right. You got the awesome gunner for Chewbacca of Hoth. You got a rusher and bodyguard in C-3PO, and then you have the prime rusher in Chewbacca and Rage Wookiee. So yeah, that's kind of where I'd go with him. I think if you're going to use the rusher version of Chewbacca, I'd probably recommend using the Enraged Wookiee version. And if you want to have some fun with it, maybe Chewbacca, the original, bump him up some special abilities. If you want someone who's going to be great with a gunner, I probably still wouldn't use Rebel Hero, honestly. I'd probably use this one, absolutely, if you're going to use him with, I don't know, turret, snowspeeder, or some other mounted weapon thing you can think of. And then when it comes to, I'd say these two are just really solid to put in a lot of variety of squads, whether it's having stealth or it's being able to do a lot of different things, use bodyguard, have other good abilities to do too. So yeah, all in all, and I'd say the Blue Milk scores, they do tend to agree with me, I'd say, for the most part. I'd say they agree with me pretty good that these two are the solid Chewbaccas, and the other ones have their roles, but also clearly have their things that they don't do. So anyways, appreciate you if you've stuck through this whole video. Please recommend to me other characters you want to see. Earlier today, I actually dropped a video on the Separatist tanks, because there's a lot of really interesting ones and kind of classic ones. I'm a big fan of those types of, those big droids, even though I don't necessarily use them as much. They're pretty cool. But yeah, please let me know which characters or types of characters I should do a video on next. And with that, like, subscribe, and comment away. I really appreciate all the comments I've been receiving. Really positive and also very constructive and helpful. Really, really good conversation going on there. So anyways, till next time, have a good one.